Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Sweat, presented by the DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm your host here for the next 30 minutes, Emerson Lazia, joined by two betting potato chips, Julian Edlow and VSiN's Josh Applebaum. Good morning to both of you. It's great to have you here. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was delicious. I didn't have any gravy, though.
That's shocker, because you smell like gravy. How about you?
I had a great time. You know, me and the fiance made our first ever Thanksgiving turkey. Didn't blow up the house. Consider
That's
that
a win.
Success,
You're
you know?
alive and
Yeah, we'll
well,
take that.
and now we need you two to dish out some best bets, baby. We are going to tackle some Thanksgiving leftovers coming up as well. Steve is not here today, everybody. Still in a food coma and mourning the loss of his win streak. So
Mourning the push.
Yeah, mourning the push here. Julian, congrats on the dub last week. Josh, good morning, loser. But as a group, y'all are hitting 71% of your best bets. That's pretty good. Yeah, so if you're at home watching us right now, which you are, listen to these guys. The fact, though, that the Titans are 8-0 ATS in their last 8 games, that's also pretty good. A few other trends that catch our attention. The Jags really suck at hitting the over at home. They have not done it once this season. Taylor Heineke's a covering machine, and Tom Brady wins a lot more than he loses coming off a bye. And would you look at this, Jules? You're going to the Bucs-Browns game for your best bet today. What you got?
I am. I played this one earlier in the week, put it out on Twitter at Bucs -3. I'll still give it out as a best bet at 3.5. I just really like this spot for Tampa and don't like it for Cleveland. You know, you look at the Bucs, it seems like that comeback final possession against the Rams is kind of what Tom Brady and this offense needed to spark their season. They come back, they win that game against the Rams, who have spiraled out of control. Then they win that game overseas against Seattle, a team that a lot of people thought, or a game that a lot of people thought Seattle would get the way both teams were playing. Now they get the bye to kind of regroup. I know they're on the road against Cleveland here, but the Browns are in a weird spot too. They've kind of come undone, and now this is going to be Jacoby Brissett's last start. They kind of know hanging over them, like, all right, now we've got Deshaun Watson coming in next week and going against his former team in Houston. We know the circus that's going to kind of turn into. I just think it's a weird spot for Cleveland to say, all right, well, this is it for Jacoby Brissett, a guy that the team kind of seems to like, and go to Deshaun Watson at this point in the season. So I don't like the spot for Cleveland. I think Tampa's on to something here, so I'm backing them.
But Josh, would you say there's some risk here, considering as a favorite of 3 or more points this season, Bucs are 0-3-1 ATS?
Yeah, that concerns you a little bit here, Julian, though. One thing I think to put in your back pocket is favorites off a bye. This has been a system match that I love pretty much. Anytime you see it, favorites just in general this year off a bye, Emerson, they're 8-5 against the spread, 62%. They're 57% against the spread since about pretty much the last decade or so. But road favorites off a bye in particular. The public, they like that rest advantage, but they're concerned sometimes laying points with a road team, but sometimes you can actually buy low on that contrarian value. Road favorites off a bye, 65% ATS over the last decade, so it's really been those road favorites who've done so well with the extra time. -3 is your good number here, Julian. My only concern would be anytime this has gotten up to 3.5, a lot of respected Browns money brings it back down to 3. So maybe a money line play for me if I'm back in Tampa Bay here, but definitely rooting for Julian's play.
I mean, Cleveland's defense has been terrible the past couple games, averaging, I think, an average of like 35 points. All right, so where are you going?
I'm going Tennessee Titans here, Emerson. This is a game that kind of was a late evolving play for me throughout the week. The early move was towards Cincinnati in this one. You actually saw this line open as low as like a pick'em or a -1 Cincinnati. Got up to 3 at one point, and I think that was based on an injury update that maybe Jamar Chase would play in this game. Once it was announced that Jamar Chase would not play, a ton of money's been coming here on Tennessee. Tennessee went from +3 to +2. Now they're +1. I see a lot of juice today, like it may even get down to a pick'em. So I'm going to back Vrabel in this spot. Vrabel's been fantastic in terms of a dog coach. He's 4-1 ATS this year as a dog. He's 22-12 ATS, 65% in his career as a dog. There's a 3-day rest advantage where they played on Thursday, and it was regular rest since he playing on Sunday. So I'm going to take the points here. You know, you could get a better number earlier in the week. Maybe look at a money line play here. I'll take the +1 right now with the Titans.
I mean, as we mentioned at the top of the segment here, Jules, Vrabel's club is currently on an 8-game cover streak that includes a 10-point victory over the Packers last Thursday. But I think it's also worth pointing out here the Bengals are tied for the second best ATS record at 7-3.
I was just going to say, look, classic square Josh just riding an 8-0 ATS streak.
It's like everyone was with the Falcons at the beginning of the year.
No, this actually is classic Josh with the spots that you go with, kind of going against the grain. Although it's weird that the team against the grain is the one covering 8 in a row, right? We're normally not in this type of situation. But, yeah, it's a game that I think the public will be excited to back the Bengals in. But the Titans, the number keeps coming the other way. So it's not a game that I'm on. I'm a little confused by it. I guess I could see either team winning. I feel like at some point Tennessee has to slip up and things won't keep going their way. But they keep winning games, and the Bengals are not the Bengals of last year, although, as you mentioned, Emerson, they're kind of coming on a little bit. So it's a game that has me a little confused. Like Josh said, he'll be rooting for my play. I'll be rooting for his, and we'll see where it lands. But I'm curious to see how this one goes.
Bengals rushing defense can be a little leaky as well, so maybe a big game.
Yeah, I don't want to get in the way of Derrick Henry.
No, absolutely not. Gentlemen, we're just getting started here on the Sweat, presented by the DraftKings Sportsbook. We're going to look back on Thursday's slate. We're going to see which leftover trends we're putting in the fridge and which ones we're kicking to the curb. The wait is over. DraftKings Sportsbook is officially live in Maryland. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code SWEAT to get $200 in free bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on anything. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now. All right, back on your television, it's the Sweat presented by the DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm Emerson alongside Josh and Julian. Dudes, leftovers. Been mashing them for days, and now we're going to see which trends from the 3 Thanksgiving games that you two maybe still find tasty, or if it's time to trash said trend. So how about this? Road favorites versus the Lions on Thanksgiving since 2005. Now 14-0 straight up. 10-4 against the spread. Detroit giving Buffalo quite a scare here. Now favorites of a touchdown or more this season fall to 12-24-1 ATS. So is this a trend that you see continuing this season, Josh?
I think you got to take it case-by-case basis here. So one thing we have noticed, dogs in general, 57% against the spread. You hit the nail on the head, Emerson. It's these bigger numbers where the favorites aren't coming through. So if you look at dogs getting 7 or more, they're 66% ATS. 10 or more, 71% ATS. But to me, you know, when you get later in the year, there's different factors that come into play. Like, for example, I'd still lean on these bigger dogs, but not if it's like a non-conference game with kind of a quarterback concern. Like, for example, today, Bryce Perkins is starting a quarterback for the Rams going up against Kansas City. Non-conference game, rookie quarterback or second-year guy doesn't have much experience. That's a 50.5-point spread, but it's been no let-up here, Julian or Emerson, toward Kansas City. I mean, that opened as low as like 10-11. It keeps moving moving. I like the big dogs that fall, 14 to 13, not the ones that keep creeping up. So I'd still lean big dogs. I'd be concerned about these big ones, non-conference backup quarterbacks.
What do you think here, Jules? And just looking at today's slate alone, I mean, there are 4 teams currently at least a touchdown favorite today. So you got Dolphins, Jets, Chiefs, and 49ers.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely something here. We saw that, dogs got off to a great start this season, and these double-digit games, we kind of see more of them as the season goes on, right? Because certain teams that fall apart, like the Rams, fall into these spots where they're now massive underdogs. And so it's got to be something that you play case by case. I am not interested, Josh, as you mentioned, in backing the Rams today by any means. If you made me bet the game, I'll probably just lay it with the Chiefs because we have no idea what we're going to get from this Rams team. But in general, I think a lot of these spots are worth looking at these massive dogs. So no, I don't really care about the Lions' historical performance on Thanksgiving. I think that can just turn into something random. But in terms of this season, yeah, I have a lot of interest in double-digit dogs.
I mean, speaking of history here, guys, the Giants-Cowboys Thanksgiving game, it pulled in 42 million viewers, making it the most watched NFL regular season game on any network on record. So that's a lot of people watching CeeDee Lamb go over his receiving yards prop for the 3rd time in his last 4 games. He's done it 7 times in 11 contests this season. Jules, is this a trend you're buying into here, thinking he's going to keep crushing all his props along the way?
It is. He kind of got off to a slow start to the season, and that's with Prescott obviously getting hurt. And this is somebody that in DFS, in your fantasy season-long drafts, a lot of people went out and got CeeDee Lamb because of the year he was supposed to have. There's no more Amari Cooper. Dallas gets thin at receiver. The defense probably turned out better than we expected, but this is Dak Prescott's go-to guy, and Dallas, we thought they might kind of fall out of things with the Prescott injury. They're still right here. And Lamb is heating up. The schedule down the stretch, I mean, you got the Texans on there, you got the Jags on there, a big game against the Eagles. The Titans are on there, not a good pass defense. So the schedule is there for CeeDee Lamb. He's kind of been heating up. I think there's something to this, and this could be something you want to back as the season goes on.
Josh, I want to go to the primetime game that night right now with you, because who knew that a game between Kirk Cousins in primetime and Bill Belichick would be such an offensive outburst here, man. The Vikings quarterback shutting down the primetime stigma. I guess improving now to 11 and 18 straight up in that window. Are you buying into this new Kirk Cousins as the Vikings look to make a deep playoff run here? You think the daytime, primetime Kirk will just remain?
Yeah, I think that's something you got to keep an eye out for, Emerson. And by the way, Patriots had some movement. They were 3 down to 2.5, played pretty hard that whole game. Vikings obviously score late to cover. To me, one stat that I think is important with the Minnesota Vikings is their point differential. They're only +5 point differential. I mean, when you have a great record, you're only +5. To me, that tells me you're winning a lot of lucky spots. You're winning these games, 1-score games that go in your favor. Long story said, I'm not really bullish on the Vikings here. I think they're playing over their heads. To me, you have a defense that's very porous here. You're 21st in points per game allowed. Vikings are a flashy team, great offensive team. Love Jefferson. He's almost offensive player of the year favorite here, like +275. But no, I'm worried about their defense. I'm not a big fan of Cousins. This is a team that I would bet against in the playoffs.
All right, dudes, we're going to make our way back to today's main slate after a quick break. We're going to find out what you two are sweating right now, like possibly a struggling Ravens offense going up against the Jags down in Jacksonville. But first, huge news for all our friends in Maryland. The wait is over. DraftKings Sportsbook is officially live in Maryland. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code SWEAT to get $200 in free bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on anything. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now. The wait is All right, it may be a little chilly outside, but here in this steamy DK studio, we have Jules and Josh standing by to share with us which bets they are sweating out today. So we mentioned earlier here, Jules, how bad the Jags are at hitting the over at home. Also, coming off extended rest, they're 3-13 straight up. On the other side, Lamar Jackson, the most profitable quarterback in the first half ATS since 2005. So what are you sweating in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's something to both of these trends. These are ones that I like to back. I've bet some Ravens first half, not just this season, but throughout the years, and really like how the Ravens come out strong in a lot of these games, especially with more time to game plan. Not going to it in this one because I think it's a weird spot on the road. A lot of people are wondering why this number is so short, yet Jags money will keep coming in here. So if I'm putting more weight in a trend in this one, Josh, I do think it's the under. Both of these teams have been sneaky good under teams, and Emerson noted the trend with the Jags. They just can't get there at home, and I think it continues.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Emerson and Julian. Number one, the under jumped out to me as well. Fell at some books like 46 as high as an opener, 46. 43.5, 43. That's a windy under. Keep an eye on windy unders today. You have a lot of games with some bad weather. Windy unders 10 miles per hour or more, or like 57%, almost 60% to the under historically. This one is the fishiest line of the day. Emerson, you may enjoy this one because this is a sharp play on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And again, they've been sharp before and haven't come through, but I think if you're going to play a line move, this tells me there's money on the Jaguars. 80% of bets are on Lamar Jackson. One of the most lopsided games of the day. Everybody's betting the Ravens. Yet the Ravens open -4. They're down to 3.5. So why is the book giving you a better number on the Ravens when everyone's betting them to begin with? Emerson, I'm rooting for your Jags today. I'll take the points.
That's because the Jags are America's team, baby. Hey, Josh, question for you. Justin Fields not expected to play against the Jets, although now I'm seeing reports left and right. He's out there warming up, getting his arm loose a little bit. It'll likely be Trevor Siemian, though, maybe if the Bears were smart here, going up against Mike White for New York.
QB matchup we've all been waiting for.
Dude, this is going to be a barn burner. 38.5 points is a total here, Josh. I mean, does that have you sweating?
I got to lean under on this one, Emerson. There's a really good bet split on the under, only 48% of bets, but 75% of the money is on the under. Obviously, your angle here would be Trevor Siemian might not put up many points, and then you look at the Jets defense, one of the best defenses in the NFL. I'd be looking at, though, maybe +7 here. You saw this line open as low as like 3-4. It's up to 7. There's a lot of buyback right now on Bears +7, -115. You could also maybe tease down the Jets a little bit, but I do think the locker room's probably happy to get rid of Zach Wilson, who makes excuses, and the locker room is not a fan of him. You're going to Mike White. He had some magic last year, Julian.
Yeah, so I agree. We're all on the under here. I just think with these teams with Fields out, and they said that they were going to let Fields go out and warm up, but he wasn't going to play with the shoulder separation essentially. So I'm going to stick to what we've heard with those reports from prominent reporters. The Bears offense, like they found something with Fields. That is all gone without. I don't know how they're going to score. And you've got this Jets defense, like you said, fired up. They've stopped they completely shut down the Patriots in that last game. Zach Wilson throws them under the bus. Now they have Mike White, who they want to play for. I think we're going to see a great effort out of the Jets defense. Great DFS play, great fantasy play this week for the Jets defense. And I think this one goes under, but I'll disagree with you. I think that the Jets are going to cover this one. I think the Jets kind of win handily here, but in a low-scoring game, if that makes sense. Maybe something like a 20-7 Jets win. Like I think this is going to be a gross game where the Jets show up and win this game.
Just don't give up a punt return for a win.
Yeah, don't give up a walk-off.
No
Come on,
left.
nobody wanted a 3-3 tie going to overtime more than Patriots fans here, right? You guys thought 38.5 was low? Ha! Panthers and Broncos are like, hold my beer, 36.5. That's one of the top 3 lowest totals we've seen in the last decade, for crying out loud. So Sam Darnold making his season debut for Carolina. How much will underbettors be sweating this one, Jules?
I don't think underbettors are going to sweat too much. I think this one is going under. It's one of those gross low totals. It's one of just a historically low total. I'll go under. Sam Darnold, he's going to have to figure things back out in his first game in a long time. And then the Broncos, how long can we trust him for? At some point, we have to admit it's broken, and I think it's probably broken. I don't see points in this game. I know Carolina's taken some sharp money. I get it. I get going against the Broncos at this point. I just can't do it with something that we have a complete no idea what Sam Darnold is going to be. So nothing on the side for me. If I was going to take anything in this game, it would be under because I think it's going to be gross.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Number one, Broncos 9-1 to the under. I mean, at some point, you just got to say, hey, this is a low-scoring team, good defense, bad offense. You've cashed a ton of underplays here. I'd lean under. It is pretty windy, and I think just the comment on low totals. Like I think the public sees anything in a 30 and like boom, hit the over. It's such a low number. It's got to go over. But remember, the odds makers are really good at what they do. Sometimes low totals are set low for a reason. Maybe this is a 17, 14 kind of game. And you mentioned it, Julian. This is another line that's really fishy. A lot of respected money. Crazy, spoiler alert, is on Sam Darnold, which makes no sense. But they're down to pick 'em. They were getting 2-3 the other day.
Yeah, I mean, is it fishy or not? Because the Broncos aren't good. I think
these are two
they're
of the
still
lowest
good,
scoring teams.
but they're not. And yeah, these teams don't put up any points.
Right, Broncos good defense, and then their offense is just absolutely terrible. Well, apologies to Aaron Rodgers because we have run out of time. One more break to go, one more block to go, gentlemen. We're going to go rapid fire game picks right after this break. The wait is over. DraftKings Sportsbook is officially live in Maryland. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code SWEAT to get $200 in free bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on anything. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now. All right, final block of the show, everybody. Bring it in. We're getting after it. Jules and Josh, welcome to the lightning round here. So game picks, and we'll allow you to either take the spread, money line, or total. Just make sure you clarify that so we can keep the record. And we all know that Steve will not be on the board then because he's not here today. Let's go Houston at Miami, Jules.
Miami money line? No, I'll lay it with Miami here if I had to. I think they're going to put up a lot of points. So Miami team total, the over there has me intrigued.
I like the over there. It's great weather in Miami. You've actually seen this total rise 45 to 47. Maybe Miami puts up 35. Can you get like 14 maybe for the Texans? I'd go over.
What do you think Atlanta at Washington?
Ooh, I'd lean a little bit Atlanta there. Washington was -4 pretty much all week. I saw them drop to 3.5 today. That would be a sweet spot dogs 3.5 or more. They're cashing like 65% of the time this year. I'll take the points +4.
All right, Jules, what do you think?
Throw me onto the 35% here. I'll take Washington -3.5.
Cincy at Tennessee. We already know you're a Tennessee guy.
I'm a Titans guy. Yep.
Yeah, that was your best bet. Tennessee +1.
Try and gain some ground here, Cincy.
All right, Baltimore at Jacksonville, Jules.
Yeah. I mean, I already know where Josh is going, so I'll try and gain some ground here too and go Baltimore -3.5, mostly because I just want my Jags win total under to cash.
Yeah, and you like Jags covering, right?
This is a play that either you lose and feel like a complete idiot or you win and feel like a genius, but I got to go Jacksonville. Everyone's on Baltimore. Lions going to the Jags.
Chicago Jets, just talked about this one. Sounds like you're back in the Jets, Jules.
Yeah, but if I'm giving my favorite play in this game, I'll go to the under.
Yep. What direction you going?
I'll lean under, but right now I'd take the +7 right now. It's fallen to 6.5.
All right. Tampa Bay at Cleveland. Jules, we know your Tampa Bay was your best bet.
Yep.
You have them covering. What about you, Josh?
I'm also going to back Tampa, but I'm going to go money line here, pay a little more juice. Like minus 170, they're a little bit high here, Emerson, but I'm just worried about this late movement, 3.5 to 3 toward Cleveland. Win by 3,
Yeah.
I want to win my money line, not push it.
We got the 3.5 at even money now too, so you can probably buy the 3 at minus 120 if you wanted to.
All right, Denver at Carolina. I think you both said you like the under in this one. Is that going to be the play?
Under would be my play in this game.
I got to go Carolina. They announced Darnold and the line went to Darnold. That makes no sense. Give me Carolina.
Their third different starting quarterback in as many weeks. Las Vegas at Seattle, Jules.
Ooh, Seattle. I think Vegas is donezo.
Okay.
I'll take a 4 with Vegas here.
All right, Chargers at Arizona, Josh.
Late movement, Kyler Murray was announced in. You missed the key number, but if you could have gotten a 3 there with Kyler Murray, that's where I'd lean here. Maybe a tease up Arizona at 8.5 now.
What do you think, Jules?
Still 3 on DK. Oh, man, if this is going to come down, I'll go Chargers money line. I just don't believe in the Cardinals ultimately.
All right, how do you feel about the Saints at San Fran? San Fran's one of those teams that's at least a touchdown favorite today. 1 of 4.
Yeah, 8.5. This one is tough. I don't trust the Saints, and I really like what the 49ers are doing. Nothing in this game, but I would lay it with the Niners if you made me.
Okay.
I'd probably take the 9. It is looking like it may get to 8.5. Injury report for New Orleans looks pretty good. They're getting a lot of big guys back. After a huge blowout win, I like to bet against teams that win big.
All right, Rams at the Chiefs here, guys. 15.5 points. That's the Chiefs, how much they're favored by, Jules.
Can I go Chiefs money line with my Dolphins money line play? No, I can't do it with the Rams in this game. So go ahead with the Chiefs, I guess. Lay it.
What do you got?
Yeah, don't lay a minus 1,300 on the money line, Emerson. There's not much benefit
Hey,
there.
it's 12.50 on DK Sportsbook.
Ooh, better number. But I will go KC. Only 42%
Yeah.
bet, 65% money. 0 let up. No buyback here at all. It's up to 15.5. This may get to 16 before the game starts.
All right, very quickly. Packers at the Eagles.
+7 if you can find a Green Bay. Primetime dog, 64%.
Yeah,
Jules?
I would take the 7 with the Packers too.
All right, that's a show, folks. We appreciate you hanging out with us. We're going to keep the party going, though, for another 30 minutes over on the DK social channels. So YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, open up the iPhone and join us. More best bets, tons of DFS advice. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching. All right, we're still here, people. Welcome back to the Sweat. 30 more minutes of betting advice. Tons of DFS knowledge is about to be dropped on you, mainly by Jeffrey Ulrich, who is going to join our Jesse Cofield right now to dish out some of the best fantasy plays for today's Millie Maker.
Thank you, Emerson. And yes, another week in the NFL, another shot at $1 million. That's right. This week's 3 million fantasy football millionaire. It's got a $20 entry fee. All right. Your shot at $1 million for first place. And get this, in addition to $1 million, the winner also going to earn a semifinal ticket to compete for another $1 million top prize in early 2023 at our DraftKings Tournament of Champions. Pretty excited. So seriously, with $3 million in total prizes up for grabs right here, $20 entry, never been a better time to get in there, get your lineups in, and if you need help figuring out who the heck you're going to put in your lineups, guess what? We can help you with that. Jeff Ulrich is here to do just that. Jeff, you're going to help us out. All right, week 12, let's get into it. Price check. Let's start with your selection for quarterback. You're going with Justin Herbert. Chargers taking on the Cardinals. Now entering week 12, Jeff, Cardinals are allowing 26.9 points per game, second only to Detroit. So that's pretty bad, certified bad.
Yeah, and just to build on that, like the Cardinals, what they've been doing since Kyler Murray's come back, they've upped their pace of play, or since DeAndre Hopkins has come back, I should say. Kyler Murray's been there most of the year. And teams are actually averaging 30 points against them over their last 4 games. So the pace of play of Cardinals games have gone up. Their defense isn't stopping anyone. And, you know, it's really tight at the top of the quarterback rankings. Tua is in a good spot. Lamar Jackson, I almost went with as a contrarian play. Obviously, Mahomes, a 15-point favorite. But I don't know if there's any quarterback here who is in such a good spot where you're going to have a close game, because the Chargers on defense can't stop anyone either. No one's throwing the ball more than the Chargers this year, over 40 pass attempts per game for Justin Herbert. He's looked a lot healthier the last couple weeks. I know the fantasy points haven't been there for him yet. Keenan Allen's back. I think Justin Herbert goes off today. I think this game is a lot of points, and I think Justin Herbert has a lot of fantasy points as well.
All right, you're going to the other side for your running back selection here. Going to be James Conner. Jeff, he was not good in the Cardinals' loss to the 49ers on Monday night, but Arizona plagued by injuries on offense. So are you just looking at this as like a volume play?
Yeah, look, the San Francisco 49ers have basically an you can't run on them. So it's not really that big a deal. James Conner is a running back who I typically try not to target. He's not efficient. But my God, he's going up against the Chargers. They've allowed the most yards per carry against this year. Again, Kyler Murray now back in the lineup. I think that's going to open up some lanes for him. And I don't really expect the Cardinals to necessarily be designing a ton of run plays for Kyler Murray coming off a hamstring injury. They're going to run James Conner a lot here, and it's a really good spot. The Chargers have allowed the 4th most fantasy points, DraftKings fantasy points, to opposing running backs, 2nd most yards. I think James Conner is a great way to stack this game. Again, you start with Justin Herbert, maybe a Keenan Allen stack. You come back with James Conner on the other side. If Arizona keeps this close, if Arizona gets to 30 points, I think James Conner has a great chance at a double touchdown game here. So really like stacking this game. It's got the highest point total on the slate. Give me James Conner at 6,600.
All right, Jeff, you like Chris Olave today. He leads the Saints in receiving yards, targets, receptions, and in last week's game in Mexico City, 49ers were gashed by Cardinal receivers to the tune of 244 receiving yards.
It's a great point. And look, like 190 of those yards went to Greg Dortch and DeAndre Hopkins. And Olave has just a massive team target share in terms of like the overall air yards. This is a player who's 3rd in air yards on the season. He is getting targeted deep every single week, every single game. There's a universe here where, you know, like Olave ends up with 180 yards. And that sounds crazy, but I mean, he's already gone over 100 yards 4 times this season. Like you mentioned, the San Francisco 49ers, why do they sometimes allow teams to stick around? It's because their secondary isn't that good. You can pass on them. And Andy Dalton probably going to have some garbage time to work with, just given how efficient the 49ers offense has been of late. So Olave, more of a boomer bust play for like a bigger field tournament. I mean, I don't think he's got the floor that some of these other wide receivers around him have at this price. But in terms of pure upside, yeah, I really do like this play. He's not going to be heavily owned, still attached to Andy Dalton for DFS. So 6,600, I still think it's an okay price to take a shot with a guy who's just got a lot of just a huge ceiling for fantasy.
All right, Jeff, your tight end selection is David Njoku. Now, this is interesting because he played just 25 snaps in the Week 11 loss to Buffalo, coming off that 2-game absence. Are you worried here about, like, a limited snap count?
No, I think a snap count will go up here. I mean, look, it's definitely something, and I understand people who like to target this and look at routes run and stuff like that. But Njoku was coming off 2 games in. He hurdled a guy like on the way to the sideline for like a 40-yard run, like after the catch. He's fine. He's healthy, and I think that now that he's healthy, his snap count can really only go up. This is a very elite after the catch player. And I just like the matchup as well. Tampa forces teams to pass more because they pass so much and play at such a fast pace. They've allowed the 6th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends this year as well. Njoku is an athlete at 3,600. I just don't think there's any other options available at this price tag with the same kind of upside. We've seen Njoku go off for big touchdown games with big yardage as well attached. I think it's another spot where you're basically buying low and you're getting a really good ceiling. I fully expect him to play potentially even like double the amount of snaps he played last week.
All right, finally, Jeff, you're going with the Panthers DST here. Carolina taking on a Denver team that currently ranks last in the league in points scored. But this Panthers defensive unit, Jeff, allowing over 357 yards per game. So what's up?
Well, I mean, what's up is they've actually played a little bit better late. And a lot of those yards and things came, at the start of the year when Matt Rule was still around. I mean, the last 2 games for the Panthers, 8 sacks, really solid. They held the Ravens to 13 points last week. And, you look at the Panthers too, again, 3,000. Most people are going to say, why would I roster the Panthers at 3,000? But what do the Broncos do? What is the threat of the Broncos? They score 15 points per game if they're lucky. They're not going to put up many points here. And then you've got the pressure rate as well. Denver has the second worst offensive line in terms of pressure rate allowed at 27%. I think the Panthers pass rush here has a chance to be a major disruptive force. They've looked pretty good just as a defensive unit over the last couple games, and no one's going to pay up for the Panthers. If you can get to 3K here, I really like this spot with the Panthers at home. Probably be a little bit rallied under Sam Darnold as well. So give me Carolina here, not only as a DST play, but just to win this game.
All right, Jeff, thank you. Stick around. We're going to get your primetime picks later in the show. But first, let's toss it over to Emerson Lazio, who wants to follow the money.
Let's go. Josh, Jules, welcome
Yes.
back. Yes, let's break down some of the betting splits for Week 12, and let's see if you're going to fade or follow the public here, shall we? Remember, before the season started, we were young, we were naive.
Yeah.
We kind of looked at this game between the Rams and the Chiefs, and we said, oh, man, it's going to be a sweet little Super Bowl preview here in Week 12, right? Wrong. The reality is it's the biggest spread of the week, 15.5 points on the DK Sportsbook. So, Casey, huge favorite here. 58% of the bets on the Rams to cover, probably because of that large number, right? 64% of the money, though, is on Kansas City to cover. So, are you going to follow the money on this one, Josh?
I'm going to follow the money for sure. And I think, the phrase follow the money, I think it's really important. It's kind of a catch-22. You want to follow the money if it's respected sharp money coming from respected bettors. You want to bet against the money if it's public average Joe money that's betting based on gut instinct and bias. So public likes the Rams. I think they just see a huge number and say, hey, I know there's no Stafford. I know you got no Cooper Kupp, but it's such a big number. They'll find a way to backdoor this one. But no, the line's going to KC. They're only getting 40% bets, almost 2/3 of the money. I'll lay it here. I think you win by 17 or more.
Jules, fade or follow? What do you want to do?
I will not be arguing with Josh here. I just look at the ceilings and floors of these two teams in this game. Ceiling for the Chiefs, always sky high, right? Floor against this Rams team that's been underachieving, not all that great on defense, probably still pretty high. The Rams maybe can put something together, but their floor is getting shut out. This could get ugly. I agree with the move. It's Chiefs or nothing.
What about Bengals and Titans? Seeing some heavy bets here and money going to the over. So we're talking 81% of the bets, 84% of the handle. Titans are just 3-7 though, going over here, Josh. Bengals 4-5-1. So you following the public or following the trends here?
So I'll probably lean under in this one. It is a little bit of windy under opportunity here. No Jamar Chase, obviously. But when you have such heavy betting over, this is what I will quantify as a line freeze. 80% of bets and money on over. Theoretically, the line should rise, right, Emerson? If it opened 42-ish and you got such heavy betting over, shouldn't we be up to 45, something like that? No, it's actually stayed the same. Some books have even dropped here. This to me is a line freeze telling you liability on the under. I'll lean under. To me, this feels like a 2017 game.
Jules, what do you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those games I don't have much of an opinion on it, right? Josh talked about the line movement on the spread and why he's going Tennessee, but I think it is a coin flip game and it's priced appropriately. The total seems to be right there, 43. It's not a 42 one. It's not a 44, which are some key numbers. It's right in between it. I think it's priced right. So I guess I would go against the public that just keep mashing that over and it's not going anywhere, so I would stick with Josh here. It feels like it could go under.
All right, so Chargers now 2.5-point favorites over the Cardinals with 64% of the handle, 78% of the bets in this one. Jules, do bettors have this one right, or can the home underdog spoil a few Sundays?
I think the public's going to get this one. I will go against the sharp money. I just can't get there on Arizona. Even getting, and I know it's moving because Kyler Murray's coming back, but like, what have the Cardinals done at home with Kyler Murray? They've been disappointing since the start of his career at home with Cliff Kingsbury. Not that I'm a Staley guy for the Chargers either, but I just think that the Chargers are the better team. The price tells us that. Like, if there's a bounce back spot for this Chargers offense, and I think a lot of us are doing this in DFS, you put the Chargers offense in there. I think they're going to have a good game indoors in Arizona against this defense, so I'm going to go there. I think the public wins.
What side are you on here?
I'm going to go Arizona in this one. I don't love it. I fully admit the Mexico City game, I got a +10. It got to 9.5. I'm feeling good beating the closing line. What happens? They get absolutely blown out here. So this is not a team that I'm very confident in, Emerson, but just looking at the market and the money, once it was announced Murray was in, you did see this line fall 4, 3.5 down to 3. You're at -2.5, juiced up toward the Chargers here. So I think if you're going to bet Chargers, you're going to probably take it right now. It's a 4 o'clock game. If you want to wait and go contrarian with Arizona, I think you wait for a 3, or you tease up Arizona 2.5 to 8.5. You go through 3, you go through 7.
Jets and Bears, 75% of the handle. Not a shocker on the under there, guys. It's going to be a battle of backup quarterbacks, 52% of the bets on the over with couple backups again. So you want to follow the money on this one, Josh? You want to take the under?
I got to lean under here, Emerson. It worries me anytime you see a low total, obviously, but I think, again, we mentioned this in the last segment, I think it's low for a reason. When we got into the studio at 11 a.m., I think this was at 38.5, just saw it go to 38, so it continues to fall despite majority of bets here, leaning toward the over. I'd go under. Again, I don't love this one, but it is a windy under. Maybe get a low-scoring game. I'll go under.
Yeah, Jules, you've already said you like the under. Anything else you want to add?
No, follow the money on this one. This is my favorite one that we've talked about. Fields was the Bears' offense. He's gone.
Yep, primetime picks are coming up, everybody, but let's give a little recap to the games on Thursday, as only we can here on The Sweat. Brace yourself for the timeline.
Welcome to the timeline. Thanksgiving, a tradition like no other. Food, family, and of course, football. Well, not that football, real football, where there are fewer ties and less kicking, but a lot more commercials. Hey football fans, Jesse Cofield here. And the holiday timeline starts us off in Detroit, a city known for Motown, motor vehicles, and M&Ms. And although not famous for its hospitality, an epic snowstorm saw Detroit open up Ford Field to let the Bills host the Browns last Sunday. And then, just 4 days later, the Lions had Buffalo back over for Thanksgiving. This was a heck of a game. The underdog Lions battled the Bills right until Dan Campbell decided to pull his best OG Andy Reid and mismanaged the clock and the final drive to the point where they had to settle for a game-time field goal. This left Josh Allen with just a few ticks remaining on the clock. But he teleported down the field, where the Buffalo kicker gave the Lions a bass whooping on Turkey Day. Then it was time to pass the potatoes to the Cowboys and Giants for the second helping of football, as they fought for sole possession of second place in the NFC East. The Dallas offense feasted on the Giants' D, with Zeke doing the bulk of the eating. But the New York offense snuck a backdoor cover and hit the over for bettors, and the timeline rejoiced. And then the final course, which is a line Mike Tirico said 6 times during the broadcast. It was a Viking playing host to a Patriot. This was a seesaw battle that saw the timeline exploding with questionable calls by the officials on those unlucky Patriots. But in the end, the Joneses couldn't keep up with the Jeffersons, and Minnesota toasted with turkey on the final leg of this Thanksgiving slate. Turkey noise.
Sunday night, Green Bay at Philly.
Woo!
You ready for this one? Here's a little tail of the tape, too. We know how bad Green Bay's been and how good the Eagles have been. ATS record, all right, not great, not terrible. Also, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, 3-0 straight up in ATS in the city of brotherly love in his career. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. Love that little
It
factoid.
certainly is. He's got the broken thumb, so it's death, taxes, and then, some kind of injury for Aaron Rodgers when he's struggling.
Absolutely. All right. Jesse Emerson joined virtually by Jeff Ulrich. There he is over there.
Jeff with
You
a
can
G.
see him.
What's up, dude?
Time to get your favorite DFS and Sportsbook plays for Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football this week. Start with Sunday. So who do you want to captain in Green Bay, Philly, Jeff? Who's it going to be?
I love the rushing offenses in this game. You're going to see a ton of rushing attempts. I don't even think it's going to be necessarily lead to a boring game because these are two top teams just in terms of what they do, rushing the ball, going up against two bottom 10 teams in terms of rush defense. Miles Sanders at 13-2 is where I want to go for the captain this spot. He's been a little bit, beaten down the last couple weeks, hasn't done much, but some players averaging right around 5 yards per carry. He's getting more opportunity this year. I think that, again, what you're going to see from this game is the Eagles attacking a Green Bay defense that's 4th worst in rush DVOA. They give up a ton of just yards and pure points to the running back position. I think Miles Sanders in a spot here to break out. Like I said, I like the rushing attack on both sides here. So give me Miles Sanders as the captain. I think at 13-2, you get access to that big implied team total that the Eagles have, and it's a lot cheaper than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, you love the rushing attack so much that your favorite bet in this one may be a wee bit aggressive.
We're going to look. One of the worst calls that we've had on this show all year is me saying that A.J. Dillon might actually lead the league in touchdowns. He's got 1 touchdown. What an idiot I am.
Yep.
But you know what? A lot of that has just been bad luck. He's only 5 red zone touches behind Aaron Jones on the year. We're going to go A.J. Dillon to score 2 touchdowns in this game at plus 1,800. 2 games ago against Dallas, the Green Bay Packers gave this guy 13 carries despite the game being a shootout. You look at what the Philadelphia Eagles have done on defense, and it's pretty bad the last few weeks. They got absolutely gashed, especially early in that game against Indianapolis. Their rush defense, just in terms of stats, DVOA, they're dropping like flies here. So I think A.J. Dillon is in a spot to get some potential positive regression. It may just come all at once here. Let's go big. A.J. Dillon, 2 touchdowns scored, plus 1,800 in this game. And just like Josh, I like the Packers to cover here too.
Yeah, definitely very bold there because he scored
Thank
1
you.
touchdown and it was back in week 1.
Bold Jeff Ulrich, that's what they call
That's
him.
it. That's it. Middle name, bold.
All right,
Danger.
moving on to Monday night.
Yeah,
Moving
let's do that, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
Steelers, Colts, Jeff. The guy you want to captain in this one has been a favorite target of Matt Ryan.
He really has. Paris Campbell.
Yeah.
At,
Yeah.
10,200. Every time I say this guy's name, I think I'm going to call him Paris Hilton because I did that before once, and now it's just stuck in my brain.
I do remember that.
Paris Campbell at 10,200 in the captain spot saves you a ton of money. And when you look at this game, I mean, we have to attack the Steelers secondary. They've given up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. This is just a unit where they can't stop anyone. The Colts have done a little bit better job of protecting Matt Ryan of late. I think Campbell, when you look at his production over the last 3 weeks, 20 targets versus Michael Pittman Jr.'s 22. He's been targeted at almost the same rate, but he's just so much cheaper. If he's the one who ends up with the big play in this game, or even just stays at the level of targeting he does, probably going to outperform Pittman in terms of just points per value, given back to us. That lets us stack a lot of players from the other side, maybe get the quarterbacks in there, obviously get Jonathan Taylor in there as well. It's a poor matchup for Jonathan Taylor. Normally that's where we'd be going, but Steelers rush defense still good. Secondary sucks. Let's go with Paris Campbell at 10,200. I think that's really good value and a good way to just stack guys in your flex.
In his last 4 appearances, when Matt Ryan has been the starting quarterback, he's drawn 38 targets for 29 receptions, 270 yards, 3 touchdowns. So
You are a stat machine.
you know it.
You're looking at another wide receiver for your best bet in this one, so share that with us, please.
Yeah, again, I'm not sure if this game is going to produce too many points, but it's got some pretty solid wide receivers in it, doesn't it? I think there's going to be at least some decent plays downfield. This Indianapolis secondary, it's not great. They got a good defensive line, but I think George Pickens, very capable of doing some things in this game. 41.5 receiving yards, basically what it was last week. He smashed the over. I don't know why it hasn't moved. We're going to go over here. I think that's an easy play. Pickens has an elite ADOT of 15.1. He's 5th in deep targets this year. And look, you can go to the player parlay section on the DraftKings Sportsbook. You can get plus 1,500 for George Pickens to go for 100 yards and a touchdown here. his target share isn't big, but I mean, he's getting a massive amount of targets downfield. Again, 15.1 ADOT plus 1,500. I think that's more than fair. Pickens eventually, I think before the end of the year, we see him go off of that kind of game. So why not take those big odds on DraftKings?
All right, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it as always. We still have one more segment to go here on The Sweat, okay? And we like to have fun here on Sundays, okay?
Yeah, we
You can
do.
watch The Sweat every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern on YouTube, though. It's not just on Sundays. So here's a look at what happened on The Sweat this week.
You come to Thanksgiving and somebody puts down a plate of candied yams in front of you, and you're like, why do we get this once a year?
This week on The Sweat.
It is NFL hangover time with DraftKings contributor Pierce Dietrich and Jeff Ulrich. Fellas, would you feel better about the Giants had they stayed within a game of Philly and beat the Lions?
I think the Giants are going to miss the playoffs. I think that was a devastating loss.
We all know the Giants aren't for real.
The Giants may not win a game the rest of the season. You can get the Giants to miss the playoffs plus money in the DraftKings Sportsbook.
Gentlemen, the story of today has been Argentina's 36-match unbeaten streak ending in absolute stunning fashion. It was a 2-1 loss to Saudi Arabia. Where does this rank on your list of biggest World Cup upsets with Argentina being knocked off?
I mean, it's got to be up there at the top, if not the biggest.
We're starting a poll on this episode of The Sweat. So what is your favorite Thanksgiving food?
Green bean casserole with the, kind of whatever those crunchy onions are called.
Candied yams, very underrated. I would like to see it more than once a year, Jesse, if I'm being dead on.
I'll go pumpkin pie.
Mac and cheese. Mac and cheese is the best food in existence, not just Thanksgiving.
I'm going to go with either a stuffing or a mac and cheese.
It's got to be stuffing. If I had that pulled on me, I'd be pretty upset. I also want to say, if anybody says cranberry sauce on this show, then just tell them to go pound sand.
Cranberry sauce sliced from the can.
Yeah, absolutely wild take. A wild take.
I have not heard what the other responses are, but I think there's only one correct answer here. If you're not a mac and cheese fan, there's something seriously wrong with you. That's the best Thanksgiving food, hands down.
Turkey, I don't really have one.
Oh my God, get this guy out.
Oh my God, that was just turkey? Really? That's
Could
disgusting.
have just said mac and cheese or something cool.
I don't do mac and
All right.
cheese. No.
You don't do mac and cheese? All right, get out of here. You guys are done. Final block of the show, everybody. Emerson and I are just going to relax. We're just going to sit here. We're going to toss it over to Julian, Josh, and Jeff over at the LED to present their Sunday specials. Go ahead, guys.
They're right there, just feet away from me, yet too lazy to host the segment. It's fine. I'll do it. I do everything around here anyway. Sunday specials. Jeff Ulrich. It's going to be A.J. Dillon to score 3 touchdowns this time? Let's hear a Sunday special from you.
No, we're gonna go the wide receiver position, but we're gonna stay in the big odds category here. We're gonna go, if you go on the DraftKings Sportsbook, the weekly specials. We're gonna go most receiving yards for the week, the slate. We're gonna go Terry McLaurin, most receiving yards plus 2,200. This is just a fantastic matchup for McLaurin. The Falcons secondary, terrible. The second most receiving yards allowed on the season to opposing wide receivers. They don't stop anyone back there. McLaurin is second in the league in deep targets. He's got a great ADOT, 12th in that category as well. Again, like you just look back at the game logs of what the Falcons have allowed, 120, 150 yards. I think there's a very good shot here that McLaurin, who's worked very well with Taylor Heineke as quarterback, had his best yardage game of the season 3 games ago with Heineke. I mean, I think there's a very good chance he pushes towards the top here, plus 2,200, more than fair odds given the matchup. Give me a player who's just, kind of just looking like he's on the verge of a breakout here in a game that I think will be fairly close as well. I think Atlanta put pressure on Heineke to throw the ball a little bit more than people think. Terry McLaurin, most receiving yards, plus 2,200. Go big or go home.
All right. I mean, I think the only thing you said that I disagree with is that Washington is playing the Falcons and not the Falcons, but everything else lines up.
Pronounce it up here, okay?
22-1, good matchup, good price. I think that's a good one. Josh, what do you think?
Well, by the way, I would lean Falcons. We talked about this earlier. We were at +4 a minute ago. All these lines are going down to 3.5 band across the board. So late money is going Falcons in this one. I'm going to look toward a game with the highest total on the board. And I think Jeff made a really good point. When you're betting these player props, when you're trying to look at a Sunday special, I want a high-scoring game if I'm going to bet some offensive guys to put up some numbers. So the Chargers in Arizona, this is the highest total on the board, 48.5. I'm going to look toward Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen, both to have a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown, respectively, plus 200. Eckler's had a rushing TD in 6 of his last 7 games. Keenan Allen, he's only played 3 games. It's going to be 4th game this year. He's been banged up quite a bit. But remember what we saw in Mexico City. Jimmy G threw 4 touchdown passes. Not a guy who's known for throwing a lot of TDs here.
Yep.
I think maybe Keenan Allen busts out for a touchdown. Eckler's been great all year long. I'll take both those guys for a touchdown at plus 200.
Eckler and Keenan Allen both score. What do you think, Jeff?
No, I like it, man. I mean, I talked about this game already to start. I mean, I think this has a chance. This is already the highest total on the slate. I mean, Arizona, 30 points allowed over the last 2 games. I mean, especially with Kyler Murray at quarterback. I mean, and DeAndre Hopkins, we've just seen them passing more, pushing the pace of the game up. Yeah, nothing to dislike there. Really like Keenan Allen today. I think he's another player I almost looked at for the yardage, but I mean, he's just not the kind of obviously deep target play that McLaurin is. But would I be shocked if he got in the end zone? Absolutely not.
All right, I mean, I like this one. We're going to talk highest scoring teams, games in a minute, so you'll see why I like this one. But we got a 22-1. We got a 2-1. Let's go with something a little bit more standard here. Shout out to producer Drew. Scrolling through the specials, he's pointing to this one. I said, yeah, you know what? I like it. Highest scoring points for any team this week. Over 39.5, minus 120. So it's basically just will a team score 40 or not. You look last week, the only team to do it, Cowboys, scored 40 on the nose. Week before that, nobody got there. Dolphins went to 39, so it missed by the hook. But you go back, a team has scored 40 points, at least one, sometimes multiple, for the last 5 weeks. You just need anyone to do it. Miami's got Houston. We've got this Arizona and Chargers game. Somebody's scoring 40 points this week. Josh.
Chiefs, maybe I would say. That's the game we talked about. You've seen that total.
Oh, yeah,
it's
Chiefs
a
and
low
Rams too.
one.
Lot of
Yeah,
teams.
they could put up a lot of points. My only concern when you bet this one is if you get up big and you're at like 35, do you still try to score with like 4 minutes left in the 4th quarter? It's the only thing I would worry about. Take your foot off the gas. But again, can any team score 40? Feels like it's doable.
Jeff, thoughts?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's definitely doable. I mean, I think if it's going to be anyone, it's probably going to be the Kansas City, potentially the Chargers as well. I think with Keenan Allen back again, that offense is just going to move really quickly. But, you know, when you look at the slate, 49ers, you know, again, like, you know, the Bengals have been scoring a lot of points. Joe Burrow's insane. I think there's just enough opportunity, enough outs, as I like to say, on the slate that this one makes a lot of sense to go over as well.
All right, we got a couple minutes left to go over highest scoring teams, games, and we've already kind of been all over this one. We got the Keenan Allen and Eckler to score. We just mentioned the Chargers as a team that could cash my bet of any team to get over 40. The Chargers are 10-1. They're plus 1,000 to be the highest scoring team on this slate on Sunday. That's where I'm going. You're indoors. You're going against that Arizona defense. You've got Keenan Allen finally back into that mix. A lot of good matchups here for Justin Herbert. And Arizona now with Hopkins and Murray together in the mix can kind of keep that pace going and keep, give some more motivation for the Chargers to be scoring later in that game if it's close. I think 10-1 on the Chargers is great, Josh.
Yeah, and I just take the regular game over for this one, Julian. It was
Right.
48.5.
Well, the regular game total isn't 10-1.
Exactly. You know, hey, we'll take it. So that makes sense to me. Again, I'm a type of guy who likes a lot of dogs and unders, so I lean unders just in a nutshell here. But the fact that you've seen this total rise, it's pretty good weather, good offenses, bad defense, Murray's healthy. Again, this could be my lone overplay of the day, over 48.5.
Any pushback, Jeff? Actually, never mind. The producers just told me that's where you're going.
I mean, yeah, no, that is where I'm going. But I mean, I'll you know, let's dive right into where another spot could be. I mean, why not? Because I think we've talked about this game ad nauseum, and it makes a ton of sense. That's where I went. I think plus 1,000, extremely fair odds for a team that's just gonna, you know, that passes a lot anyways. And again, like I think the Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins factor is so big for teams playing against Arizona because that just keeps the Cardinals in the game and pushing the pace. But another game, and I already mentioned this with Terry McLaurin, the Commanders at plus 2,200 are really interesting to me. I think if Atlanta keeps this game close, Washington is just going to pass more. And they've got the weapons to take advantage here. Antonio Gibson as a passing back as well could break off a big play. I already mentioned McLaurin, but like Dotson back there. I think the Commanders, if you're looking for bigger odds, or maybe you just want to sprinkle 2 in this market instead of just 1, which is completely fine given the odds we got available. The Commanders at plus 2,200. I think it's going to be a close, high-scoring game as well. And they've got the weapons now to potentially push for 35, 40 points here.
All right, I've reached my quota for the week of 5 minutes as host, so we're going to toss it back to the desk where Emerson and Jesse are going to do their jobs.
And you mentioned the producer talking in your ear. That's producer Drew. His birthday is tomorrow. Today is the last day in whatever year that he's currently in before he turns another age tomorrow. So happy birthday, Drew.
All right,
Unbelievable
that's going
trend.
to do it
That's
for
it. We
Week
gotta
12
go.
edition of The Sweat. We do have to go. Back next Sunday starting at 11 a.m.
Yep.
You can also
Watch
catch
us
us all
tomorrow
week
morning,
at 11
too,
a.m. Yeah.
right? Something
TK,
special.
Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Enjoy the games.
Okay, see you tomorrow.